Hello, everybody. This is Jan Moray, and I'm here for another edition of Greet the Week. I'm here with my co-host, Mona Duncan, and I see that we have quite a few guests with us today, and welcome to all of our guests. And today's topic is respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. We all know how to spell that one, right? So what's on your mind, Mona?
Well, you know how I love words. Every word has power.
You're going to give us some definitions, right?
Do what?
You're going to give us some definitions, right?
Well, not necessarily. Well, yes, I am, because, respect is not, it's a noun, which is kind of telling what it is, a thing, but it's also a verb, so it's an action. Mm-hmm. And it is, looking at whether we have respect to, whether it's respecting as in order, so we have all of these things lined up here, and which one we'll be talking about them respectively, meaning in exact order. Mm-hmm. Or we can look at them respectfully, which is the mode with which, or the manner in which we talk about or look at something. And then how everything, all the little words, and whether the beginnings and the endings and all that, the R-E, respect, it means to redo something. And so if you speck, you're looking at something. If you get a speck in your eye, it can be just a little itty bitty, smaller than a pinpoint. And yes, it's very
noticeable.
It's very noticeable, and it's unpleasant. And so you want to respect. Sometimes it's to look at things differently. And as we begin to look at them differently, we can begin to see things differently. Garland and I were invited to a installation of a young man, and we just know him rather recently, and he had invited us specifically to come because he was going to be installed. And so we went, and as I was there, it was a place I'd never been before, and it was there was a lot of people there, and a lot of different ages, and whenever you're kind of taking everything in, and began to look around, and I did not want to be critical, but I was beginning to be kind of critical. And the kids that were the young people that were going to be involved in the program and the installation and everything, they were picking with each other and acting silly and being like Donald Duck and various things like that. And anyway, I'm thinking to myself, just be respectful, no blame, no criticism, no this, no that. It was, and as I began to really watch the young people and watch them interacting with others, and then after they had the installation and saw how important it was, and how that they had been selected and what they had to done to things they had accomplished, I just had a whole different point of view toward those young people. And just begin to think, as we choose to, and it always is a choice. Everything is a choice. But as we begin to respect the fact that we do have those choices, and that we can look at things differently, and that.
So, what made you change your mind? What happened that you changed your view and what you were thinking about those young people?
Well, I didn't like how critical I was being.
Okay. So it was more about you.
I just didn't like that.
It was more about you than about anything they were doing.
Right. Because they were just kids. They were in their late teens, early adulthood, and they were in it. And so anyway, it's interesting how that, looking at, Dr. Glasser and reality therapy and everything, how that from the very beginning, he had all these axioms to do, but everything in there had a little PS to it, and that was in keeping with respect for the individual. Mm-hmm. That whatever you're doing and interacting with someone, it's always in keeping with respect for them. It was just that little tagline there. And so it is, as we give respect, sometimes we want respect, but we won't be able to receive anything if we don't give it.
Right.
Because that's part of the reciprocity of life, is that we reap what we sow.
Mm-hmm.
And if we sow seeds, we reap seeds. If we sow flowers, we reap flowers. If we sow fruit, we reap fruit. And so it's always to be aware of the fact of what we're thinking, what we're doing, how we are seeing something. And then how could we see it maybe in a little different way?
Yeah.
Think of old Otis Redding wrote the song that Aretha Franklin made so famous back in the late 60s, and spelling out respect. And in the wording it says, just a little bit of respect. And it can go a long way. Find out what it means to be. Respect. I get tired. And so it's beginning to look at things in a different way.
Yeah. So how about when you worked at the with the people coming out of prisons, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to assume that you were very respectful towards them when you in your interactions with them. But my understanding is that a lot of times prisoners don't get a lot of respect. Do you have any comments in that regard about how you acted towards them and then how they responded to you?
Right. Matter of fact, it was a challenge of mine that, they would be hard and indifferent, and that they were forced to come to the classes.
Right.
And, they were there. And so it was always a challenge of mine to present it in such a way that it would engage them, mm-hmm. and to make sure that I looked everyone in the eye to eye, and that we would have that initial contact, and to choose to respect whether they thought it or not.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it's always a choice. I choose to respect you, whether you become, realizing that everything is a give and a receive. And as you give respect, you have a tendency to receive it, right. But not always, because I am well aware of the fact that I have to earn your respect.
Right.
I think we give it, but unless we get really genuine with that, we are choosing to give respect to someone, we can hold over those little things that we may be critical about, or that we may not be in agreement with.
And so you were respectful of them because you tried to make the courses the training that you did to them, you try to make it interesting. Where a lot of people probably wouldn't worry about that because they had to be there. They had a captive audience, and so it really didn't matter because they couldn't choose not to go. And so just trying to make it a little more interesting and entertaining from your perspective, from your side, would make them respect you a little bit more, because I'm sure they're well aware of that.
Yeah, and we always did things that was engaging. I would ask them questions, or we'd play some games, or have some things that they would do and interact with one another, or so forth. But I would tell them, you can leave anytime you want to. And that's sure,
right.
I can. But there's consequences for it, but it's a natural one. I'm not going to come after you, Right. It's a natural consequence. And as we begin to look at life, that everything we do, there is a consequence. And it's either a good one or it's a not so good one. Or sometimes it's just plain ordinary, and therefore maybe that's where we put it in the la-la land, that we don't pay any attention to it until it becomes a negative one.
Right.
And we may be expecting or wanting the positive regards or the positive responses, and we're not aware of the fact of what we need to do in order to earn those. Because not everyone does give it. I was working with one of the desk monitors that was there one night, and he was railing on a couple of the residents, and he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "What?" He said, "You think I'm prejudiced, don't you?" And I said, "Well, I really don't know. I can't get inside you. I can't know what you are thinking, what you're doing. But I can tell you that the words you just used were very prejudicial."
Mm-hmm.
And we can say all we want to. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not something else. But you know what? Our body's going to let us know differently.
Right.
By the attitudes that we have. And we can know if we're being respectful or disrespectful by our own attitude, and we need to be aware of that. I read this article the other day, and I want to read to you what this guy said, and it was in The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. And he said, his name is Glenn Clark. He said, defeat is a condition which one must accept in order to give it reality. Well, actually, anything. If we don't accept it, we're not giving reality to it.
Right.
I refuse to give it reality by accepting it. But there should be no distasteful taste in one's life. The thing of it is, if we see something and we have that disregard for it, what it is doing is our body, it's releasing toxins within our body. And that comes out in our attitude, in our facial expressions, in our walk. It comes out in everything.
Yeah. It hurts our health.
And soon, we can become just really fatigued. But if we choose, if we begin to realize that we have choices, and we must love everything we do and love everybody, and it may say, oh, that's way too, at least like.
Yeah, right.
Give it a smaller word. Give it a word that's a little less powerful. And respect may be one of those. I choose to respect you. You're not acting respectfully, many times maybe not, but I'm choosing to respect who you are, where you're coming from, because you know what? I can't know where you've been. I can't know how you've been treated, how you've been disregarded. And so therefore, I want something to give a little different taste to.
Yeah.
And to have an accepting of. To love whatever it is we're doing, whether it's pulling weeds or cleaning out a closet or whatever it is. Give a regard to it. Give it a new title, so that it's something that you can enjoy doing, so that you release the energy that is within each of us to be able to do something like that.
I was hearing a story about a young man who was struggling to find work, and finally did find a job working for some people who were not from this country, and they owned a restaurant. He was helping them in the restaurant, and they were very disrespectful towards him, and they spoke in their own language, and they wouldn't talk to him, and they had him do all the jobs nobody else wanted to do. And the young man was pretty upset about it, but on the other hand, he was pretty desperate to get a job, and wasn't having any luck finding anything else. And my thought was, well, just because they're treating you a certain way doesn't mean that you have to treat them back the same way that they're treating you. That there are ways you can do. You can be grateful for having the job and show that gratitude for them taking a chance on you and allowing you to work there, and to still smile and be pleasant and make an effort to get along and to be friendly, and see what it would have done. Because I have to believe that they would eventually, the owners would eventually warm up to you, because probably they had other people who treated them poorly as well. They probably have their own things going in their mind about how they don't like being in this country, everybody's rude and stuff. And so you're perpetuating that thought when you continue to act that way. And so, I think respect is a huge, huge value to have. And that if you treat people respectfully, that they will come around. It may take time, but I think you will. That the experience I've had is that you do win people over.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's just some things you can't resist. And kindness is one of them.
Right,
And
right.
being
Or
gentle.
smile.
Yeah. 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 There's just some things. And that every thought form, every thought we think produces something. It becomes form at some level.
Mm-hmm.
But yet everything is created twice, first in the mind and then in reality. And every thought becomes a form at some level. It becomes a substance at some level. And so, does it produce happiness or does it produce unhappiness? Does it produce happiness or does it produce misery? And that's respect in a nutshell. It's that simple. What thought forms is taking actual form in us personally and in those that we are interacting with and engaging with. Even if we're not engaging with them, even sitting in the balcony or sitting over on the sideline watching and observing what's going on, there's still something about that is putting an attitude into the atmosphere. And is it one that is conducive and inviting, or is it one that's off-putting and rejecting?
Right.
That goes for misery. And so it's that simple, but it's also that complex. And as Nelson Mandela said, he says, I never lose. He said, I either win or I learn.
You learn. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And as we can begin to do that, but I want to win, and I do want to win, not win over you, but win together. Let's we can all win.
Yeah.
And it's by giving that respect. And again, it's just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. She kept repeating.
A little bit, and hopefully it increases little by little as we do respect the other person more and more.
Right. And as she went on and then singing the song, that I get tired just a little bit. I get tired.
Well, it does wear you out. I mean, especially when people aren't being respectful towards you, aren't being kind to you, it is difficult to respect them. And you're going against your natural instinct. Your natural instinct would probably be to fight back and to say words you might regret later on, but to hold in those emotions and say, no, I'm going to be respectful and find out what's going on here.
Right.
It does wear you out. It can.
And in the song, she sings, I keep on trying, just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. And I ain't lying. Respect. I ain't lying. Please learn to respect me. I need your respect just a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you just might walk in and find that I'm not here.
Ah, yeah.
And all too often, whenever that respect is broken, they may shut down emotionally, if not literally walking out.
Right.
Whether that's in the home life, whether that's in the work life, whatever it is. And then that disrespect becomes powerful, even though it may be in a passive way. It is one that is disconnecting all the way around. And so it goes back to the just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. How can we
are you reading the note in the chat?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to say your name. Yes, is it Ingvar? Is that how you say your name? And it's treating people less respect.
Ingvar. It's my first time here. I'm joining from Norway.
Yes. From where?
From Norway, Oslo.
Norway. Okay. Well, welcome. And so you say treating people less respectful can also be a way of reinforcing higher status. And yeah, I mean that's some people do that but is that really necessary to act that way? And
It can also be that you have an idea of different classes that you want to use. So it's from a philosophical perspective.
Okay, so you're talking about from like a young child being respectful to an adult. So that
Can be that. Can also be between classes, social classes.
And social classes as well.
Right.
If the most extreme example might be India, where they still, although it's informal, they still practice the caste system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or in Thailand, where you have 26 classes.
Oh.
In India, you have 9.
Okay.
Right. Right. So respecting them would raise their status. Like if you listen to a child, you hear what they're actually complaining about, can raise their status and help them to learn to be more communicative also.
Of course.
Or to anyone to help them. Yeah. Yeah. And is that, to see the value and the equality and the respect that everyone is due. And then also, whenever to whom is respect due? Well, is it not due to everyone?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then what are the benefits to us whenever we choose to respect, even in a disrespectful situation? That when we turn a soft reply to an angry response.
Yeah.
What benefits do we receive? But in the long run, what benefits might the other person receive? Of course, I'm also aware of the fact that sometimes whenever someone is not giving respect or they're not being heard and they start kind of yelling, and they'll just, kind of follow after and just keep after you. Like, I want an answer and I want it right now. And that is more off-putting than anything. And sometimes it is realizing that everybody has a different point of view. And that what respect means to one person is not necessarily the same thing as what respect means to another person.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And, sometimes we need to realize that respecting where they're coming from is as important as, and being able to show it in a way. In being able to show that respect, that I don't understand that language. I don't understand that I respect you as a person and where you're coming from. Help me to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that we can maybe not come to agreement, but at least we cannot be so at odds with each other.
Odds. Yeah, absolutely. And going back to Ingvar's point there, I can remember back when I first got into the corporate world, and there was a guy who had been hired before I was hired, and he had, we all had college degrees, but the people working for us didn't. And he demanded respect from the people who didn't have degrees just because of that he had a college degree and they didn't. But the guys did not respect him. And so it causes conflict between them because he was all upset because they weren't respecting him. And for me, looking at it, I'm like, well, how are you treating them? In the United States, we don't automatically assume that just because you're of a higher status that I need to be respectful towards you. It's just not there. No matter what level you're at, you pretty much have to earn it, unless you end up using a lot of external control, and then people who don't respect you punish them in some way. But I learned that lesson from very young on, that just because I had a college degree didn't mean that I was any better, and that I could treat them worse. I could treat them like they were unworthy. I always tried to treat them respectfully, and as it turned out, my stuff ended up getting done first, and then some of the other people would complain because my stuff was getting done first. They always say, well, that's just because you're a girl. And I said, no, it isn't. I because I know how to treat them.
It's not gender specific.
Yeah.
It's not. Because all the other, because it was all men and me. I was a token female, but I did treat them respectfully. But some of the other guys, they really didn't, and it made a big difference. But you do have to earn that respect from the deity. It's not to be assumed that you deserve it.
Exactly. You know, some people say, well, I respect you if you respect me. No, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It has to be, I choose to respect you, and I will continue to do that but all the time realizing that I have to earn your respect. And I want to engage in a way and be aware of the way that, response, because this never works.
No, it doesn't.
That going against each other never works. And so even if you're maybe with this way and someone's coming against that way, it's in being aware of how your responses or your modality, the verb part, the doing part, whether it is being off-putting or connecting, regardless of how the other person is engaging, whether it's trying to be off-putting or disrespecting.
Yeah, and Sue commented that when we disagree with others, it might be difficult to continue to respect. And yes, that's true. She called it, you learn to disagree gracefully or agree to disagree. I've had people say that too. I disagree, but it is difficult to continue to respect somebody if they're treating you poorly.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that, to disagree and be as gracefully as possible and disengage is, walk off without stomping off, or
just say, we disagree. I disagree with you. We disagree with each other, and I'm just going to stop this conversation right now because it's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah. I'm not going there. I'm not taking us there. And maybe I like to come back with maybe so, maybe no, but I'm not there yet.
Right.
And I can respect where you're coming from because you've lived things and know things that there's no way I have any privy to. And so it is. But at the same time, it's knowing deep down inside and being honorable to us that we know things that they're not yet privy to either. And maybe as we can have a respectful interaction with each other, we can begin to share those things in a way that it is healing to all. Yeah. I was looking at, the Baylor Bears here in Waco are the women's NBA champions, and Kalani Brown she was the first round 7th pick for the national NBA, for the women's national NBA. Anyway, one of the things that Kalani comes from a family that are very accomplished. Her dad was 15 seasons with the Boston Celtics, and they won some championships. And her mother was a coach, and they won some championships and all this kind of stuff. But the thing of it is Kalani made the comment. She said that her family and others had always encouraged her to not lean on their accomplishments as to what she could do. Right. To respect who she is, her own talent, her own way, and do it within their own rights. And
it makes so much more when you earn it on your own instead of getting there because somebody knew somebody.
Yeah. And so it is, and that's not that, it's nice that there are others there. But at the same time, it's whether it's the go or the not go, it's realizing the fact that we're doing it on our own effort. And it goes back up to that whenever we love what we're doing, and even if I don't love what I'm doing, you know what, I'm going to change my mind. Because you change your mind, you change your life.
Right.
And it becomes easier to do anytime we change our mind. And we can have respect for a really difficult job, whether that job is working with someone else or that requires a lot of muscle, or whether it's just a dirty job to get in there and do it.
Right. It's all how you look at it.
It's all how we look at it. And that all of our thought forms have some form, literal form at some level.
Right. So we're out of time for today. Do you have any closing thoughts, Mona, before I stop the recording?
Well, just kind of go back with old Nelson Mandela, that I never lose.
Right.
I either win or I learn.
Great words to end with. Thanks,
Yes.
everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.